evening and welcome to Sports Weekly, powered by Terry Hendricks Ford and live here at JJ Wynn's in Holiday City. Happy to have you with us here on this, not night before, but the eve of the Boys State Basketball Tournament. We have a lot to talk about. We have basketball to discuss, a little softball later in the show with our guests tonight. Just going to jump right in because we have a lot of ground to cover here with our first three guests. Northwest Ohio, you may have heard, the Antwerp Archers have made some history. They are heading to Dayton for the first time in boys basketball as a representative from Northwest Ohio for Division IV. And we're happy to be joined by head coach Doug Billman and two of his best players, not just this year, but the last 4 years in Luke Krause and Jagger Landers. Guys, thanks for coming up. I know it's a hectic week for everybody, and we appreciate you taking the time to come up here.
Thank you for having us. It is a hectic week and it's an exciting week, and these guys are getting their full of things, and it's been fun. It's been quite an experience, and there's a lot of excitement rolling through our town right now. There's a lot of excitement rolling through our school system, and we're just kind of taking it all in while still trying to prepare.
Yeah, take us through the moment of regionals, because this for all three of you, because your group had gotten to the regionals 2 straight years, or now a 3rd straight year, but had lost in that semifinal game. Breaking through in that one, getting to a regional final, and then getting to Dayton. Talk about all the preparation, the execution, the emotions, everything involved in all of that.
Yeah, the big thing that I thought was so phenomenal for these guys was that we got through that hurdle in the regional semifinal, and we played a really quality team and a quality program in Marion Local, and but they just weren't satisfied, and we knew you're getting the #1 team in the state then in the next round, and to have the guys lock in for 2 days of practice and really come out with a great mentality to play what we thought was one of the better offensive teams in the region for sure in Tiffin Calvert, and for them to just to lock in and be ready to go. 2 days after we conquered this big hurdle was just tremendous, and these two guys certainly can talk a little bit about that, and they led us. They were the ones that got us rolling into that.
Luke, what was that like from a player's perspective to finally knock on the door and finally break through?
Yeah, it was a good opportunity for us to break through that door, but I've said multiple times in the past interviews is that it's a process. Like you look at Crestview, you look at Wayne Trace, you look at all those teams that made state runs and they always get beat maybe in the district final, they always get beat in the regional semifinal, they get beat in the regional final, and then they finally get over that hump of getting to state, and that's what we went through. And to see it come full circle, like we continue to get better in practice, and even during the summer, like we've had a really, really good summer this year, I thought, and everybody matured and took it to another level, I think, and that's what helped us this year.
Jagger, I'll let you answer this next question. It seems like in watching you guys a half dozen times or so that we've seen you this year and through the year, whether it be seniors or the kids that your teammates that came up, looks like that this is a pretty close-knit group. Is that fair to say, Jagger?
Yeah, I think we've been pretty close ever since we were little, and it's one thing that we kind of carry with us everywhere we go is knowing each other closer than we know anybody else, and I think it's something that we carry into every gym against another opponent, is that how close we are, seniors through sophomores on our basketball team. And I think it can get us through some close games at sometimes with how loud the crowds can get within them compact gyms that we play in. But, yeah, I mean, really close.
Coach has talked about this with us in pre- and post-game interviews. I want to ask you guys about locking in. And that's a phrase he used a lot, whether it be Edgerton on a night in December when you're won by a running clock game, or in the regional semifinal to play to go to Dayton. Talk about that and locking in and understanding a process of what it's like to play a game in December and have that be meaningful, and then the game here in March and that be even more meaningful.
Yeah, we talk about creating habits a lot throughout the beginning of the year and throughout the season. We have to take each opponent just like they're our best opponent. I mean, it's the next person on schedule. We all treat them the same. When we're not playing that great of an opponent, our habits will come out, and we can't have those habits become bad when we have a close game in the fourth quarter. I think it shows a lot about us in tournament, especially when we're in our district final or district or regional final, and crowd's getting really loud, but we have to be able to communicate within each other. We can't always hear coach on the sideline, but we have to be able to trust in one another to know what each other are doing, and I think that has to do with us preparing for each game the same and for having the same mentality going into every game.
Luke, I'll let you answer that as well.
Yeah, I think just the preparation for every opponent is really important. Just because, I mean, you can get beat by any team in any given night, really. Like especially when you can focus too much on a conference game, and you can get knocked off on a non-conference game really easily. So, yeah, Coach Billman stresses a lot. Waking up, getting to the gym at 10 in the morning, going through about an hour walkthrough of what the other team's going to do. Like it's extremely important because in the tournament, like it's the same thing. You just got a little bit extra time. But yeah, just the habits are a big thing. Not breaking your habits. Like maybe if a team's not as skilled as us, maybe like breaking a habit, trying to gamble, like that's not good. So we need to keep doing what we're doing, and that's what we did. And I think that's helped us through the tournament.
Doug, what's this group? What's a little bit different about this group that's finally able to break through from the two really good teams? I mean, these two were with you through those two teams, and you had really good players. So what maybe is that little ingredient that got you through this time?
You know, I think it's just it comes down to what we've really stressed from day one is you know, having a great mentality in our preparation, and then making sure that we carry that on into, you know, what we always start with is we set the tone defensively and rebounding, you know, and those guys, and again, not that we hadn't done that in the past, but these guys just kind of just hang on every word that we're trying to do and what we're trying to talk about, you know, whether it's through preparation and watching film and going through scouting report. And, you know, when these guys are texting me and saying, hey, Coach, I saw this, I noticed this on film, and, you know, what do you think about this? And they're coming with some of those suggestions. I know that they are doing the same as we're doing. And that extra preparation, you know, this is just has kind of taken us to another level.
Did that preparation and preparing for this season, in you guys' mind, begin after like the heartbreak of New Bremen last year? I mean, were you already thinking about that this year, last year?
I most definitely think so, but like also like we kind of just felt like we were just empty-handed. Like it just was in a sense kind of taken away because like Jagger hit the shot to win, and we were just kind of like frustrated, and it's a gut feeling for sure. But again, we didn't like. We thought about it for like a week or so, and then we just once the summer hit, like we're not going to let this happen again. Like, and you look at our regional semifinal, regional final, like we've won games because of us. Like it wasn't because of someone else's decision, or so. Like we wanted to take full ownership of what we wanted to do, and I think that's just a maturity thing. And the past teams have helped us mature, and Jagger and I have been able to give that to the younger kids, and I think that's like the past teams, like those older guys, like really helped us, and they're just a big part of this, of what we're doing. Like it's those guys that have really helped us too. So
I guess personal questions for both of you here. Luke, a little bit of a position switch from your previous years, going off the ball a little bit more. What was that like?
It was easy. I just want to do what it takes to win. Honestly, like I don't care if I score 4. I just want to win. And I told him once Hunter went down, it was honest. It might have been that night or the next day. I said I'll play the 4. I'll do what it takes to win. But it hasn't been much of a difference. Like there's some nights where I'll have to take and score. Some nights Landon will have the hot hand. I'll pass to him, Carson, whatever. Jagger will score. So yeah, it wasn't much of a big change for me.
Jagger, you're the focal point. Everybody knows this, of everybody's defense coming in, and yet I don't know that I've ever seen you change demeanor from the moment you walked in here to the moment you played a game. What's that been like for you, especially ramped up the last couple of years, being that focal point and knowing how important you are to the team, but yet getting your teammates involved? Because I think that's an area, Coach, that he's really improved on as he's gone through, is passing out of the post extremely well.
Yeah, I think going into especially my junior year, knowing that teams would focus in on me a little bit more than they would everyone else, whether double teaming or me being the guy to stop. Conversations with my dad, just having the mentality that I have to be able to get through those things, but also use them to open up my teammates and have them have opportunities to score. And I think last year I did it fairly well last year, and I think especially this summer, I think opened up a lot of things, and I opened up my eyes, and I think I'm doing it a lot better this year. Our regional semifinal game, I thought, was a pretty good example about how we've prepared this whole season, waiting for teams to try to shut me down but we have to show that teams can't just shut me down. They have to focus on all 5 of us, and I think that's what kind of makes us a little bit more special than we have the last few years. I mean, we've had a good 5, but this year I'm feeling real good about all 7.
Doug, I'll ask you, this is a question, though, for all of you. The one loss this year is to a rival, Wayne Trace. I had to bring up a bad memory, but what did that do for you and this group after that night moving forward?
Yeah, the big thing is, we sat in that locker room over at Wayne Trace, and, it was tough, and there was a lot of build up to that basketball game, and we knew that, and it was just one of those things, and that feeling just kind of sat with us, but, it just energized us again. And not that we didn't have that energy before, but it was just another edge, where we knew that at that point in time that, that feeling that we had, we wanted to make sure that feeling wasn't going to be there in a way that we didn't have control over once the tournament started, for example, so just taking that into practice and ever really since then, I look at that game and I look at the Dayton-Dunbar game where some of those things have really changed the way that we look. We get down in the Dunbar game in the third quarter or in the fourth quarter, down 11, and the guys just battled and battled and battled. So those two things really just kind of changed our our focus a little bit in this last month of the season.
Guys, from a player's perspective, Trace game, Luke.
Yeah, it was a gut punch for sure, but we also look back on the film and we just kind of simplified it, and we're like, if we make 2 more shots, we win the game. If we did not shoot the ball at all. We did not shoot it well that night at all. But again, Wayne Trace is a really good team, so you got to give it to them for playing good defense. But still, we didn't play our best game, and we kind of took that as another kind of a confidence piece of anything we could take away from it. And then again, the Dunbar game, and then you throw in Blackhawk, kind of those games where we had a battle. I think Wayne Trace really helped us with that, and most certainly helped us into the tournament. But I think even that Blackhawk game too, really helped us. We won that big game right before the tournament, and that kind of helped us. But again, going back to Wayne Trace, we knew we had to get better. We knew we weren't there yet, and that was the thing of we had used it as a learning point and continue to get better.
Yeah, and Jagger, same type of answer.
Yeah, I think the Wayne Trace loss this year, and even last year, I think it's been positive for us in both losses. I mean, you'd think as a loss it'd be a negative, but it's been a really big positive for our team and even our coaches. I mean, we've been able to look and see what we need to prepare for on games coming, because teams can look at that film and see what we did bad and what the other team did good to shut us down. But I think we've used that to our advantage almost, and I mean, everything that has come out of our losses has been positive. I mean, whether that's scouting, taking practices a little bit more seriously, and just watching it and looking at what we need to get better on.
These guys were junior high when you came back to Antwerp, right?
Yes.
Around 7th grade.
Yep.
So I remember having a conversation with you about this, about how you knew you had talent coming. You knew you're going to have to get better on the defensive end as a program. I'm not picking on anybody that was there, but just as a program. Talk about the buy-in on that end of the floor and how progressively it's gotten better and better, and what it's meant where you're at right now heading into this state weekend in Dayton.
Just unbelievable. Just the response by program-wide about taking some pride defensively, and it's not just on what you see just with these guys and the varsity guys when they're playing. You see it in practice. Our practices are battles. Our JV kids and our younger kids have taken that pride defensively, and so it's just program wide. And it certainly has helped that these guys have set the tone, and you see it, and you see when you get to this point, you're playing in a regional, and you hold teams to a 23 and a 31 in a regional. And I mean, those are eye-opening things. And if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that those were going to happen, I may have looked at you like, that's kind of crazy thought. But we kept getting better defensively throughout the season, and that's again that we talk about it often. That's set the tone, and we try to set the tone each night just with those two things.
Doug, how would you describe this senior class? You've got 2 of them here, but as a whole, how would you describe their leadership ability?
Off the charts. And you look at each of our 7 seniors, and they do it in a different manner. Obviously, these 2, are a little bit more vocal, and they will tell you the things that need to get done. Whereas, you take a Hunter Sproles or, a Mason Steele, a Caden Ferris, Gage McMichael, and Caden Record, where theirs is a little bit different. It looks different. It's still leadership. It may be leadership, by diving on a loose ball. It may be leadership by Hunter Sproles working as hard as he possibly can to get back and be a part of something like this. I mean, that just looks different, but it's still leadership. And, I think that's really a neat thing to look at when you look at all 7 of those guys, is they all do it in a different manner.
Going to talk about Tri-Village. I do have a question for you two, because for those that are listening, probably know, maybe not know, but pass along. You're going on to the next level to play Jagger basketball at Findlay. Luke, you've been committed since the 3rd grade to go to Bowling Green, right, in baseball. But I want to ask you from a recruiting standpoint. We hear so much today about, you know what, I'm a baseball guy, so I'm just going to specialize and play baseball. Or basketball's my thing, and I'm just going to play basketball. Did it come up when you were being recruited by these places about you are a multi-sport athlete? Because I think that is huge. And I think at a school size like Antwerp, all the dudes should be playing all the sports, whatever it might be. Did that come up in your recruiting process for both?
Yeah, for sure. They were big on, Coach Halleck was at the regional games and just, he pays attention to the basketball stuff. And, most important, they want to see your athleticism, most importantly. And basketball is a great way to show that. So, playing multi-sports. And in that Antwerp, if I was ever told to just play baseball, I probably would never go to that school, just because I got buddies that I played with since 2nd grade. I'm going to play with Jagger. I'm going to play with Sproles. So if I was ever told differently, I would play basketball no matter what, just because of all the friendships I've created. But yes, playing basketball and then baseball too. Yes, they love seeing the multi-sports, and it's big at Antwerp too. You need to play all sports, because
Absolutely.
It's just your friendships. But then, I said in a interview yesterday, is that it breeds success in multiple things. So yeah, playing multi-sports, it's a lot.
Same with you, Jagger, at going to Findlay?
Yeah, I think it was brought up here or there between coaches, and some even came and watched my football games before I committed to Findlay. But a decent amount of coaches asked to come and watch a football game or two, or even see a few highlights, although I barely had any. But they had some. They did want to come watch. I wouldn't say it was a huge factor for me playing basketball and them wanting to come and watch me play football. But when I went somewhere and I told them about it, they're like, wow, you're pretty busy. And I was like, yeah, I try to stay busy. So I think coaches do look at that and kind of see how I'll be ready for practices throughout the summer and all that fun. I won't be lazy all the time. So, I think that was a factor in the process.
All right, Coach. State semifinal, New Madison Tri-Village. Tell us a scouting report, a little bit about this group.
This is a really talented offensive team. They average over 70 points a game. They've got 2 really dynamic scores. Just kind of something. We thought that we were really impressed when we were scouting Tiffin Calvert, just how good they were on the offensive side. And I think Tri-Village is right there, and maybe even a little bit more. So they've got size, they've got length, they've got strength. They can shoot it, they can drive it. So you check all the boxes on the offensive side, and they've got it. And they come in at 25-3 and some success. They were down at the state tournament in 2015. So there's some tradition there, and we're going to have to be really on point with our defensive coverages, our switching, and but I love the mentality right now of we came into practice on Monday, and I know there's some energy in our building right now, and there's some energy in our community, but I'm sure these guys are feeding off that. But we had great energy on Monday, we had great energy on Tuesday, and we had great energy in practice. So you're talking about these guys make fun of me because I number my practices. You're talking about practice 72, 73, 74 right now, and this is where we're at, and these guys are coming in and getting ready to prepare.
Almost leaving that, I guess, the outside noise outside the gym. That fair to say?
Absolutely, and that's big, and we talked about it earlier in the week. It's like, hey, I want you to experience this. Enjoy it, love it. There's a lot going on, but when it's time to come down in here and focus on what we need to do, let's go do it. And again, when you have these guys and our seniors leading that way, it's been that way. It's like, hey, cameras in the gym, talking to people and all those things. There's a lot to experience here, and that's great, and go enjoy it and love it. But they have come to work, and we've got 2 more practices to get ready for Saturday, and I couldn't be more happy with where we sit right now in our game prep.
Well, I know I can say this, and this even includes Wayne Trace. Northwest Ohio is rooting for Antwerp this weekend. Probably the only time Wayne Trace fans will say that they are. And I don't know if they'll admit it or not, but they are. Northwest Ohio behind you guys. And I think what makes it neat, I saw an interview you did, I think it was with the Fox 55 guy, and you hit the nail on the head that I think is so appropriate for our area, how special this is that you've talked a little bit about this, because you're playing with buddies and teammates. This isn't an all-star team that was thrown together, to get to state. And we've seen our share of them at all divisional levels through the years. That makes it more special, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. I mean, these guys have been at it for a long time, and you talk about Coach McMichael, you talk about Mike Krause, you talk about Jason Landers laying the foundation for this thing. I'm just along for the ride right now. And those guys helped to build this, and it's been pretty special. I do want to make mention just real quick.
Sure.
Just within the last week and a half or so, we've just received so much support from all people in the area. The text messages that we receive, that I receive, and the social media has been really overwhelming. And when you talk about the support of Northwest Ohio, we feel it. We really do, and I think that's pretty special. People from Brian, from Wayne Trace, from Paulding, Coach Fitz sitting out here. He's texted me a bunch of different times. So we feel it, and it is special. And that feeling is really great, and we thank you all. If you're listening out there, we do thank you for your support.
Well, we wish you the best of luck as you head to Dayton this weekend. How's 2 more wins sound?
It'd be spectacular.
Great.
Yeah.
I know the town thinks the same thing too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doug, thanks for coming over
We
here.
appreciate
Doug
it. Thank
Billman, Luke Krause, Jagger Landers, a couple of impressive kids. I have no worries about these two or
Yeah.
any of your seniors, what kind of success they'll have away from their fields and floors as well. Best of luck this weekend. Antwerp basketball, our first guest as they prepare for the state semis this weekend. More to come on Sports Weekly after this.
The Bryan Parks and Recreation Department would like to wish the Bryan Golden Bears good luck in tonight's game. The Bryan Parks and Rec offers a wide variety of classes for you during the entire year and an array of sporting events all year long. Check out what the Bryan Parks and Recreations Department has going on at bryanparksandrec.com or like them on Facebook. The Bryan Parks and Rec hopes to see you in one of the many parks that Bryan has to offer and enjoy the facilities. Questions about the classes or rental of one of their facilities, call 633-6030.
I want to talk to you for the next 30 seconds about the place to go for your next vehicle. Terry Hendricks Ford on Stryker Street in Archibald. Whether it's a new vehicle for purchase, a lease vehicle, or perhaps a pre-owned vehicle, Terry Hendricks Ford on Stryker Street in Archibald is the place to turn. They also have this fantastic service department as well. Service after the sale. Terry Hendricks Ford, serving all of your vehicle needs in Northwest Ohio. Go to terryhendricksford.com. When it comes to choosing a realtor to help you with your real estate needs, the only choice is the Amerimade Realty team. Serving 6 counties in Northwest Ohio, Amerimade continues to be one of the top companies year after year. With our award-winning service, commitment to each and every client's best interest, comprehensive marketing plan, and dedication to the people and communities around us, the Amerimade Realty team is the go-to choice in Northwest Ohio. When it's time for you to make your next move, call Amerimade Realty at 419-636-7653. That's 419-636-SOLD, or go to AmerimadeHomes.com.
It's Thirsty Thursday at all the main stops in Northwest Ohio. What does that mean? It means that every Thursday, all day long, you will get any size fountain drink or any size coffee for only 79 cents. All day long, every Thursday, any size fountain drink, any size coffee or cappuccino. Stop in to your main stop and see everything they have to offer every day. Main stops, always there when you need us.
Here's your updated B-Rock 100.9 forecast. Clear skies and quiet tonight with a low of 43. South winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. High temperatures reach up to 69 tomorrow. Partly cloudy skies. Mainly cloudy skies tomorrow night. Lows around 43. Much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs from the upper 40s to the lower 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. Currently, it's 69 degrees.
Back here to Sports Weekly, powered by Terry Hendricks Ford. Quick reminder, no show next week. We are off 1 week and then back for 3 shows before we wrap everything up. On March the 30th, we will talk Fairview Baseball with head coach Andy Singer, Eden Baseball with head coach Brian Moore, and Eden Softball with Eden Softball head coach Paula Fry. Again, that's 2 weeks from tonight. We talked about the state tournament that's coming up this weekend that Antwerp's taking part in. OG is there as well. Brayton Martin, thanks for being here. You have kind of developed a system that I kind of found out about this. Is this year 2 that you've done this or more than that?
So this is year 1 doing it publicly.
Okay.
I've done it a few years just like in Northwest Ohio, but kept it to myself.
So for those that follow college basketball religiously, maybe the average fan doesn't know for sure, but they always see RPIs and quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins, and this and that in college hoops. You've developed a high school RPI. I guess before we get into the formula, how did this start? Why did this start for you?
So it kind of started, I work in supply chain, so the last 5 years at work every day, I just sit in an office and make spreadsheets. So I kind of just applied that to, I've always been a high school hoops fan, going to a state tournament. I think the first year I missed school to go down to state was in first grade. So, and this year I'm taking my 2 first graders, they're skipping school to do the same thing. So just kind of always been a fan of following high school hoops, and I just kind of applied my Excel use to using this, and it was a good way to do it.
Yeah, so what we have to go on, we have it in football, which determines the computer points for the football playoffs. This is kind of along those lines.
Yeah, it's all the same idea. It's pretty much just a way to rank teams that's based on, you get a lot, say there's 5 teams that are 10-0, well, who are they playing against? It kind of measures their strength of schedule and who their other teams are playing against. So it kind of measures out that way. Like the college one that's been used for years and years, it's made up of 3 tiers. So the first tier is your winning percentage. Second tier is the average winning percentage of everybody that you play. And the third tier is it's called the opponent's winning percentage, which gets a little more confusing, but I always explain it like if Ohio State beat Michigan State, who Michigan State was 16-5, and they beat a 16-5 Dayton team, they're going to get more points for beating 16-5 Michigan State than 16-5 Dayton, just because the Big Ten schedule is a little more tougher than the Atlantic 10.
Are you taking at the high school level in your RPI, are you taking into account home and away losses, neutral floors, that sort of thing?
No, so that's something that the college game does, and that I had told Aaron Gross from the Crescent that's something I want to do in the off season, is get it set up to where it factors in, it weights it a little differently where it's home, away, or neutral. And the other way that mine is different than the college one is that it takes into account what division the schools are that you're beating. So, if you say Eden, say they beat Defiance, they're going to get more points for beating Defiance if Defiance was 10-0 than they would if beaten 10-0 North Central, just because Defiance is a much bigger school. They're playing tougher teams every night, so it kind of does that statewide as well.
Okay, so you're doing this all by yourself, pretty much.
Yep.
You need employees here. I mean, you need to think next level here,
Right.
and you're the guy doing all the numbers. When are you sleeping? And you have a newborn.
Yeah.
So and you already had a child. When are you sleeping through all this?
Thankfully, he's been sleeping like a rock so far, so I'm good there. But another thing I want to do, in the off season going into next year, is do the same thing for the girls as well. So the guys takes up a ton of time right now. So going to the girls is a whole new animal. Well, I've already got my sister asking me, okay, what do I need to do? How do I do this? How do I do that? So I was like, all right. So I already got some help there if I need it.
So we had Antwerp on. Where did you have them in your last RPI or most of the year? Where did you have Antwerp?
Antwerp, they hovered around the top 6 or 7 most of the year. The time of year where you can finally start looking at it is kind of around Christmas, New Year's time, because it takes a few weeks to, build up the data. If you look at it after week 1, you're going to have a team that maybe won their first game but is going to finish 1-21. They'll probably be first. So it takes a few weeks, right around Christmas time. They've been around top 7 or 8. Then the last one, after all the regular season games were in, they were at 3rd. They actually, against Tiffin Calvert, was 1, and so they knocked off them regional finals. So
OG, who's also playing in Dayton, were they top 3?
OG was 1, which was pretty good. They were higher than a couple. Colonel Crawford was undefeated, and OG was 20-2, but OG was higher just because they had, I think, the 3rd toughest strength of schedule in Division III across the entire state. So they were playing tough teams. Their 2 losses were both against Division I Findlay and Lima Senior. So OG was at 1. Yep.
And you've gone. It's next level. It's not just teams. You rank districts, divisions, regions, everything are ranked on your site. And I'm going to let you talk about your site here in a minute, but that's all up there and available.
Yeah. So that was kind of the whole reason I started this. Was I think it was 2018 or 2019. I noticed in just the Division IV, all the teams that go to the Bowling Green Regional. You got Defiance District, Elida, Wapak, and Findlay. I noticed the Elida district was always a district that was absolutely loaded with teams. I think it was 18 or 19 where there was 11 teams in the Elida district where 8 of them had a winning percentage above 750. And then 2 of the other ones, I think it was Napoleon and Fostoria districts at the time, 3 out of those 25 or so teams had, a record higher than, or a winning percentage higher than 750. So that was kind of the whole reason I started. It was just seeing how imbalanced it kind of was. In my opinion, I feel like everybody that goes to that Bowling Green Regional, just like football, should be ranked 1 through 55. For example, for football, there's the 28 regions, and this year they rank them all 1 through 16 makes the playoff. 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15, and so on. Well, what will happen is you get districts that are loaded and some of them that are a little weaker, then they're not as balanced. It's like for March Madness this year, it'd be like putting all the 2 and 3 seeds in the South region and just dispersing everybody else randomly instead of spreading them out throughout the whole bracket.
Now I've heard this, and I don't know. I'm going to ask you if this is true, but I've heard this that the OHSAA is interested in having a conversation with you to explore this a little bit. Is that right?
I hope so. I don't want to get ahead of myself just because that was kind of like the whole end game when starting.
And by the way, just fun fact, don't hold your breath on anything until that meeting happens.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Don't hold your breath.
Exactly, yeah. I've been talking to a lot of coaches. They seem to like it. A lot of media members seem to really like it. And it's gotten a lot bigger than I ever thought it would. So I'm hoping that'll help lead to that. But
because a lot of us we're numbers nerds.
Right, yeah.
And I just don't want to do the math because I'm not talented in that area. I leave it to an expert like you to do that.
That's what my wife always says. She's like, I don't understand how people actually enjoy this. And I was like, you'd be surprised how many more nerdy people like myself.
Sorry, Brooke, I enjoy it. Yeah. So are you an analytics guy in baseball? Are you old school there, or kind of a marriage of both?
A little bit of both. I actually kind of like that they're banning the shift, which I know a lot of people aren't.
No, I'm not anti. That's a defensive strategy. It's like not being able to play zone and.
Right. Okay. I understand it.
Okay. Yeah. So you said you've had a preliminary, like maybe this could happen type thing. And how would they use it? Because for football, the computer points, that's how you get in. That's not going to happen here, but how would they utilize this?
So there's actually 9 states right now that actually use general RPI to rank teams in their postseason tournament for high school sports. Colorado, Kentucky, North Carolina, New York, there's 9 of them. And the funny thing is, like, each one does it a little bit differently, where the tiers I was talking about, where there's winning percentage, opponents' winning percentage, and so on, they all weight them a little bit differently. So that's kind of cool that you can. It's not like concrete where this is how it has to be done, and there's a little bit of leeway in how you do it. But yeah, there's the other states that use it. They don't just use it for basketball either. There's some states that do it just for football playoffs. Some do every team sport. So, baseball tournament, they're using RPI to rank their teams, softball, volleyball, everything. So that's kind of, I've laid out like all of that, and I've talked to a couple guys on, the Coaches Association. So that's kind of like where I'm trying to get started with, and hopefully it can lead to eventually the OHSA.
So, Brayton, where did any surprises come up to you as you were starting to do this here and putting in numbers? Like, you had a conceived notion of something, and then, all right, the numbers don't back up what you were thinking.
Yeah, the last few years, when I was just doing it on my own, there was a lot of them, like, I didn't expect this team to be, either this high or this low. Like last year, for example, Lima Shawnee, who everybody in Division, they made the state championship game in Division II, or maybe it was the semis. They lost St. Mary, but everybody thought that, they were the best team, Northwest Ohio. Well, pretty much the whole year I had Rossford ahead of them. And I was like, I think I need to fix something so that, Shawnee's actually ahead, because, if this was public, I'd look like an idiot. So it's definitely, the good thing about it is, like I was saying earlier, you can tweak it a lot as you go, find out which one works best and what doesn't. And this year, doing the whole state I found it's actually a lot more different than doing just Northwest Ohio. So I had a coach from Canton McKinley, a coach from Archbishop Moeller point out, maybe you should do this a little bit differently. And, I've actually done little the things on my own where I compare how they would look with different weighted formulas and whatnot. And might do a little bit more tweaking after this year, might not. I haven't decided yet, but yeah.
Okay. So the website, we mentioned it. Tell our listeners how to get there if they're listening and want to find out a little more, explore that site. What will they find and how do they get there?
Yeah, so it's at martinrpi.com. You can follow on Twitter as well at martinrpi, and there's an underscore after it. Not a whole lot going on during tournament just because the RPI ranking is just based on regular season. But like I said, hopefully the off season I'll be able to get the girls ready to go. And then next year, every Sunday I'll have the state rankings out for each division. And then every Wednesday or so, each region. I also like to do it that way so you can see, who's the best in Northwest Ohio and Northeast Ohio. And then, kind of compare them statewide. But yeah, this time of year with, being so close to the end of the year, not really sure what's going to go on in the off season. I don't know what's going to go on with that, but hopefully just a lot of getting ready for next year. Because there's a lot that goes into it as far as getting schedules ready and whatnot.
And I don't know if, I'm not asking you to remember everybody that's playing in Dayton this weekend off the top of your head. Are there any surprise teams there that are maybe even off the radar, outside the top 10 in your RPI that are playing this weekend?
So there's a couple of them, but they're your perennial powerhouses. So there's in Division III, for example, OG plays Afrocentric, which I think OG's 1 and Afrocentric's 15. And on the other side is Lutheran East and Cincinnati Taft, where I think Lutheran East is 45 and Taft is 49. They were both of those teams were at state last year, but they're ranked a little bit lower this year because they play D1 schools almost every night. And it's similar to the football rankings, the Joe Itel rankings. You can schedule as many bigger schools as you want, but if you don't beat them, they're not going to help out your ranking. So I know Taft, there's some people that are like, oh man, how's Taft so low? Because they played 9 D1 schools and they went 1-8 against them. So only one of those games is really helping out their ranking. They've been playing a really tough schedule. So come tournament time against D3, it's going to help them out a lot. So, but yeah, as far as ranking, that's kind of, and then Division I is the same thing. Cleveland St. Ignatius, I think they're around 76th or something, and they're in the Final Four, but they're another school.
You play the games, and then that ends up kind of washing some of that away.
Yep.
It's fascinating. I enjoyed reading. I took a lot of time looking, kind of tooling around the site, and you've done a great job, great prep work. Good luck in getting a little more help with that, and hopefully you can add girls basketball, because I think that would be really cool to see as well.
Yeah.
You talked that Division IV. I always thought, just following this for almost 30 years, I always thought, just for the record, that Findlay district that fed into, I always thought that was, they had teams that made it, but always felt like that was the weakest eye test, the weakest of the 4 that fed into that region.
Right, they got some of those teams more over towards the Tiffin area that they, not to dog on them or anything, but play a little bit weaker schedule, weaker teams and whatnot, and they're kind of more spread out too, to where, Northwest Ohio, you got Lima, Toledo, Bryan Defiance all right here. They're kind of more out in the country where you're kind of limited to how far you want to go to play people.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, eye test, and then the numbers kind of backed it up.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for being here with us. Have fun at the state tournament this weekend, and I look forward to having you on again down the road here to talk more about this. Best of luck with this venture.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Great. And that's martinrpi.com.
Yep.
All right, follow that as well. Brian Softball when we come back here on our final segment of Sports Weekly. Stay with us.
The Bryan Parks and Recreation Department would like to wish the Bryan Golden Bears good luck in tonight's game. The Bryan Parks and Rec offers a wide variety of classes for you during the entire year and an array of sporting events all year long. Check out what the Bryan Parks and Recreations Department has going on at bryanparksandrec.com or like them on Facebook. The Bryan Parks and Rec hopes to see you in one of the many parks that Bryan has to offer and enjoy the facilities. Questions about the classes or rental of one of their facilities, call 633-6030.
I want to talk to you for the next 30 seconds about the place to go for your next vehicle. Terry Hendricks Ford on Stryker Street in Archibald. Whether it's a new vehicle for purchase, a lease vehicle, or perhaps a pre-owned vehicle, Terry Hendricks Ford on Stryker Street in Archibald is the place to turn. They also have this fantastic service department as well. Service after the sale. Terry Hendricks Ford, serving all of your vehicle needs in Northwest Ohio. Go to terryhendricksford.com. This is Andy Brigle from B-Rock 100.9. We have some fresh information to pass along to you, the listeners of the 15 Minutes with Andy podcast. Season 2 will be dropping in the month of April. That's right, all new stories of hope, stories of triumph, stories of positivity here in the tri-state area. That is the goal, and that's what we've been searching for. We're finishing up the guest list, but we can tell you that Season 2 will drop coming up in the month of April. You can listen to 15 Minutes with Andy on the YouTube platform. In fact, go there now and you'll be able to find Season 1 guests. Again, Season 2 of 15 Minutes with Andy, debuting and dropping in April. So be listening, and hopefully you'll find more of those stories just like we have as well. 15 Minutes with Andy, returning in April. When it comes to choosing a realtor to help you with your real estate needs, the only choice is the Amerimade Realty team. Serving 6 counties in Northwest Ohio, Amerimade continues to be one of the top companies year after year. With our award-winning service, commitment to each and every client's best interest, comprehensive marketing plan, and dedication to the people and communities around us, the Amerimade Realty team is the go-to choice in Northwest Ohio. When it's time for you to make your next move, call Amerimade Realty at 419-636-7653. That's 419-636-SOLD, or go to AmerimadeHomes.com.
It's Thirsty Thursday at all the main stops in Northwest Ohio. What does that mean? It means that every Thursday, all day long, you will get any size fountain drink or any size coffee for only 79 cents. All day long, every Thursday, any size fountain drink, any size coffee or cappuccino. Stop in to your main stop and see everything they have to offer every day. Main stops, always there when you need us.
Final segment here on Sports Weekly on a Wednesday night. We've talked some basketball. Now we're going to talk a little softball, and Bryan softball here with head coach Samantha Fowles. Hi, Samantha.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is technically year 3 for you at Bryan, as you said, but your first year was 2020, and we all know what happened 2 years ago in 2020.
Yeah, so first year as head coach, I was assistant the previous year, but was canceled because of COVID, so I had to tell the girls about 3 weeks in that we were
no season.
2 weeks break at least, and then canceled from there.
So since this is your first time on, where you're not from Bryan, so what's your background? Well, where'd you come from and how'd you land in Bryan?
So I am from Maumee, Ohio, graduated in 2014, went to Owens for a year to play softball. Went to BG, graduated with my education degree, and got a job in Bryan.
So Bryan's your first job.
It is.
Did you know that you wanted to be, was that always part of the plan, be a softball coach?
Yeah, so before I even graduated college, I was coaching softball and volleyball. So varsity was along the way at some point.
I got a Maumee name. I know he's still coaching there, but it's not baseball name. Cam Kuchar.
Yes,
yeah.
Great guy.
He is he's a Dodgers fan, so yeah, he's a great guy. Absolutely.
Football coach now.
He is the football. He did make the move over from baseball to football. So tell me a little bit about how this transition has gone for you. Now you feel a little more settled in the job now as the varsity coach, now with a couple of years, a year under your belt, now into year 2 actually coaching?
Yeah, so the first year was definitely a little overwhelming, just kind of taking that role. Luckily, I was coaching with Chad Savage the first year, and he definitely helped me transition into that position. And then when our season kind of cut short suddenly, felt like I started all over last year again. But third year in, I'm feeling a lot better and feel like I got more of a base of what I'm doing as I'm going into the season here.
How would you describe how you want to play and you want Brian softball to look and play? Tell me a little bit about what your style is.
I think my biggest goal for our girls is just always be competitive. Like when people see that we're coming out, they know we're going to be competitive. We're going to be someone that's going to be hard to beat, not an easy win at all, regardless of what kind of talent we have that year. And we're always going to work hard and never just let someone run over us at all.
Yeah. You played, you said, at the college level?
Just for a year,
Just for a year. What was that like? And it was at Owens, so a little bit different. We've had guests on different sports, different levels. What was that like playing softball at Owens?
Definitely competitive, carrying over from high school. And I was competitive in high school. Definitely a whole different world when you step up to the college level, regardless if it's D1 or we were at the JUCO level. But stressful, but
yeah, I've said that if you're going to school and you're playing any sport at any level, you've got to look at it as a job.
It's your job, yep.
It is, even if it's D3 or
yeah.
JUCO.
I don't think anything really prepares you for it. I think you just step in and do the best you can, play the game you love, and hope for the best.
Yeah. So from last year's team, focusing back on Brian now, talk about what you lost and what you have back from last year, and a really good year last year for Brian softball.
Yeah, last year we had a great season and definitely a great stepping stone into this season. We lost 5 seniors, mostly starting infield, so third base, second and first, and then definitely huge pieces in our lineup for hitting as well. So we're just trying to work on filling those roles with some of our underclassmen and less experienced players coming up. We also have quite a few players back as well. Addie Arnold on the mound, who finished as NWAL Player of the Year last year. So she'll be a great asset for us having back. Catcher Ella Voigt behind the plate as a sophomore. Shortstop Delilah Taylor. And then center fielder Brooke Taylor's back with an injury right now.
Oh, that's
so,
good.
Yeah.
That sounds like a strength then, up the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
potentially can be a strength if it's not already.
Yes, and then we have a couple sophomores back as well, Kaylee Thiel and Tabitha Taylor. They might do some jumbling around from last year, but definitely getting some leadership and already seeing the varsity field will be a plus for them.
Samantha, what's your numbers like through the program? What do you have numbers-wise?
We are definitely struggling number-wise this year.
Okay.
We are just having a varsity team with 18 girls and doing like a modified JV schedule where we're going to take some of those girls that aren't seeing a ton of varsity time and at least giving them those chances to play on a JV level field.
Days that you don't play a varsity game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Or Saturdays we'll do 2 games.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So, all right, I kind of mentioned it a little bit when I asked about up the middle. What would you define as right now, middle of March, your strengths going into the season?
I think our strengths, all the girls' sports and Brian this past year and the past couple years have been very competitive, and we have many, many 3-sport athletes or at least dual-sport athletes. So I think that level of competitiveness and drive is just carrying over in our softball season, which is why I think we were so successful last year. And those girls are just ready to go. They know what it's like to win, and they want to win every time they step out in the field.
And that's something you really can't coach. You're either
Right.
competitive or you're not competitive.
Yes.
So what are some areas, and everybody has them, whatever sport it is, but here early, what are areas that this group needs to improve on if you're going to get to an ultimate goal later in the year?
Yeah, I think losing majority of our infield last year is going to leave us a little bit inexperienced in those areas, and is kind of moving some people around. So I think our biggest weakness is definitely just going to be the inexperience on the varsity field and kind of forcing those underclassmen and freshmen especially to step up to a playing level that they've never experienced before. So if we can overcome that mental struggle, like they have the physical ability, then I think we'll be doing okay.
All right, on paper, what's the NWAL look like?
It'll be competitive for sure. I think last year we had lots of tight games and lots of teams beating other teams when it wasn't even expected. And I mean, we say it all the time, anyone can step on the field and beat anyone on any given day.
And I know whatever the sport is, but in particular, I know in the spring, Brian softball, Brian baseball, you guys like to step out and play bigger teams, whether they're, getting outside the league and playing a Friday game against a Toledo area school or a doubleheader or whatever the case may be to challenge yourself and get ready for postseason?
Yeah, I think even after last year, we actually had quite a few teams had reached out to us wanting to schedule some games or at least a scrimmage. So we're trying to get out of this local area and just go see some bigger talent. Like we'll see Maumee as their first game. We'll scrimmage BG. So some different schools there that are going to give us experience outside of the NWAL and just teams around us.
Now, you have the luxury of a beautiful indoor facility in Bryan. So being indoors isn't quite the dilemma in Bryan as it is other areas or other school districts, especially in the smaller schools with the Vets facility. But this has been had to have been a blessing of a week here where you're able to get outside pretty much every day this week for the most part.
So Monday was actually our first day on our field. So when we scrimmaged Tuesday, so just to have that ability to get out and scrimmage our first week, I mean, you never know if you're going to get those in, which is always a hope when you're scheduling them. But yeah, so we scrimmaged yesterday and Tuesday, and then we'll scrimmage again tomorrow, and it's looking great for tomorrow as well. So getting that time out on the field is going to be great for us as we're moving into actual gameplay then.
And for those people that are coming, whether they're coming and they're Bryan fans or opponents fans, going to be some differences that you're going to see at your softball facility because of renovations that are happening, right? What's happening there and what's the ultimate ending with all of this?
So we are revamping a lot of our seating out at the field. Bryan Girls Softball Association has been a great help in trying to get the money raised for it and kind of going out talking to local businesses, seeing where we can get the funds to be able to do this. But we're going to put in from dugout to dugout will be the leveled seating, kind of like the baseball field, not quite as high. We really struggled with having seating enough for as many people were coming out to see our games last year, and we want to encourage people to come see those games. So that did tear down our press box. Right now we only have the concrete laid for that, but those are scheduled to go in on March 21st. So hopefully by first game. Eventually we are planning to put a press box above our dugout, and then stairs kind of leading up to that, and then new sound system and all that. Littler things, we're going to do flagpole and a new flag, which will be great. And then our batting cages are still pretty new with the turf and the bullpens, so those are amazing. So we can get outside even when it's not great outside.
Absolutely. So everybody starts spring sports that last week of March. When's your first game? Do you play on that opening Monday? Are you scheduled to have a game?
March 26th
So
is
Saturday.
the first day, yep.
Saturday.
So we'll be away at Maumee March 26th.
Okay, and then league doesn't start until what, early April? I want to
Yeah,
say
I think
early.
a week or two after.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come over here. Best of luck this season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Continued success. Give Arnie my best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samantha Fowles, head coach of the Bryan softball team, one of our guests tonight, along with Brayton Martin, and of course, Doug Billman, Luke Krause, and Jagger Landers from the to-be state team from Antwerp as they play this weekend. Remember, no show next week. Will return for the first of our final 3 shows for the year 2 weeks from tonight on March 30th. Brian Moore and Paula Fry from Eden and Andy Singer from Fairview will be the guests that night. Sports Weekly, driven each week by Terry Hendricks Ford. JJ Wins, the main stops of Northwest Ohio, Bryan Parks and Rec, and Amerimade Realty. Quick reminder about tomorrow as well. We'll be here from 4 till 6 tomorrow for St. Patrick's Day, our live drive for the United Way of Williams County and the We Care cabinet. So if you come out and bring any food items tomorrow, Josh and Jody have been amazing to give off, 80%, 10%. I know. He was about ready to go heart attack when I threw out 10%. You would be 10% off your food bill, only your food bill, and you'll get a coupon for that, right, Josh? Okay, so if you bring an item or any items tomorrow, you can do it during the day, but we'll be here from 4 till 6, and there will be a little bin set up here in the lounge as well, so look forward to that. Might as well just stay here, Josh. I'm not go home. Thanks to everybody for coming out tonight and all of our guests. We'll see you in a couple of weeks here on B-Rock.